Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Monday, June 5th, and Mizzou baseball has wasted no time replacing departing coach Steve Beazer. The Tigers have hired Kerrick Jackson as their next baseball coach. So Kenny, Peyton, we're going to talk about that first and foremost. Jackson comes by way of Memphis. He does have a Mizzou tie. He was an assistant here a couple of years ago, back under Tim Jamison when he was the head coach. So first and foremost, quick reactions. We've got a new baseball coach. Are you guys surprised that it happened so fast, especially given, it's been a little over a week since Beazer's been out? Time is relative, but I get a quick turnaround in what is an important role here for the baseball program.
Yeah, it definitely is a quick turnaround. Yeah, I mean, baseball's not like a sport like basketball and football where you have multiple names getting dropped here and there, multiple sources coming in with different ties to the university. So I guess baseball, it kind of came as a surprise for us because we haven't been in this spot before to see a new baseball coach come to the University of Missouri. Desiree Reed-Francois, the athletic director for Mizzou, spoke very highly, of course, of her new hire called Kerrick, a tireless recruiter, fierce competitor, and a coach with deep roots to the Midwest. And of course, you just mentioned, he did coach at Mizzou not too long ago in the last decade. So, I mean, it's going to be looks like a good hire for Mizzou if, they're really going to try to jump forward in the SEC. And we can talk about this in a few minutes too, about how they need to also start funding this program like other SEC schools do.
Yeah, I mean, there were ties all over the place. The Kerrick Jackson, when he was hired to Memphis, Brian DeBorg, someone in the athletic department who was hired last month, I believe, he was involved with getting Kerrick Jackson to Memphis. Now, a month later, or a month into his job at Mizzou, he helps bring in Kerrick Jackson to Mizzou. As you said, Knowlton, he was an assistant here for 5 years under Tim Jamison. Interestingly enough, at Memphis, Tim Jamison was Kerrick Jackson's pitching coach. So not sure if they'd be willing to maybe bring him along with Jackson to Mizzou, especially given the fact that there was a really tumultuous exit back in the day, but they did just induct him into the Mizzou Sports Hall of Fame. So maybe that is something they look into, but just so many different ties to the university. This made sense. There were a few other names floated. Rob Vaughn, I believe, at Maryland was a name we heard they were interested in. Few others. Rob Childress, I believe, A&M's old baseball manager. But I think Mizzou found the guy that was at least very near the top of their list. You look at Jackson, his resume, he took over his first head coaching job at the college level. He took over a Southern program, had just 9 wins in year 1 with Southern. Then the next year won the SWAC and made a regional, moved on to Memphis. A lot of people were complimentary of what he did there in just 1 season, had them above 500. Ultimately, though, I don't really think the important part is just hiring Jackson. The important part is going to be what kind of support he gets. Them settling on him just less than a week or so into the search makes me think that now baseball is going to be made a bit more of a priority. It seems like Desiree has been working through each program since she's got to Mizzou, kind of making upgrades where she sees, and it may be baseball's turn now. There wasn't a ton of money coming into the program under Beazer. Fair or not, they felt the need to move on. And now Jackson comes into the most difficult job in the SEC for sure. I mean, what support he gets remains to be seen. I'm hopeful that he gets a fair amount of support, though.
Yeah, and we can dive in. You touched on a lot of important things, Peyton. We've talked a little bit already on this show, when Steve Beazer left, about, kind of the investment that this program seems to need. But I do want to dive into Kerrick's background a bit more. It seems, from at least what I was reading and looking at, a lot of his strengths and good qualities as a coach is that he seems like he's a pretty decent player developer. I think he worked a little bit with like some other college programs. I thought I already coached in the Cape Cod League as well. So how important is that? And like, did you guys notice, I guess, just, what are the characteristics maybe from your own quick research, because this hire just happened, in terms of the qualities he might bring, whether it's player development or just, contributing to helping turn this Mizzou program around. Like Peyton said, we'll get into the help from the university and such.
Yeah, he overlapped with some guys who are currently in minor league baseball and professional, Major League Baseball at the moment. Rob Zastryzny, former Cubs.
I believe it's Zastryzny.
Yeah, kind of a complex last name.
We don't blame you for butchering that. That's
tough. Trey Harris, Tanner Houck, Pete Fairbanks. These guys are either in the minor leagues or in the major leagues at the moment. So there is a lot of player development on that end, and it looks good for Mizzou's future when you have those guys behind them. Other than that, it is a quick turnaround, like we said. But I mean, my first initial thought is, getting this coach here early. A lot of guys are going to be jumping into the portal. We've already seen a couple pitchers jump into the transfer portal in the last week with Steve Beazer's firing. And it's kind of like, setting an understanding of where this team's going to go in the future. Gabe DeArmond from Power Mizzou reported that there was a team meeting last night when the announcement was official. So, we might hear in the coming days if some other guys are going to be jumping the portal as well.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Logan Lunsford, freshman starter who flashed a lot. He jumped in the portal. Chandler Murphy, who was Missouri's Friday night guy a lot of the time, jumped in the portal. Austin Tresser gone. Trevor Austin gone. That's always going to happen. That shouldn't really concern anyone with a coaching change. The real question is how does maybe Kerrick keep some of the guys he identifies as building blocks in, especially when, as we've mentioned, this is not an easy job. This is the SEC, yes, but it's the worst place to be in the SEC as of now. I will say it does help that Kerrick has a background developing players that have reached the MLB. And it does help. I do believe he worked with the MLB Draft League. He is a former agent. So all of that does help, I think, build a good way for him to build a good recruiting pitch, even before selling recruits on Mizzou. But at the end of the day, there's got to be more investment if any of us hope for this hire to work out.
Yeah. So I lost my train of thought for a brief second, but Peyton, like, you touched on it a little bit, like talking about some of the players that might be leaving. I guess before we get back into the investment side of stuff, can y'all summarize kind of what this last Mizzou season was and what Jackson is maybe inheriting? Because obviously it seems like, you're both like, we're alluding to, it's not a great situation in the SEC for the Tigers, given their lack of investment from higher up. But on the field, what can he expect to work with to develop in his first season, and who, like you identified some of the names, Peyton, are players that are maybe key to keep, and that may be, like you said, on the way out.
I could, in spite of the fact that it is just incredibly hard to build a competitive team at Mizzou, just in the SEC, I do think Steve Beazer and company did it. I mean, the lineup last year really did have a great year. Trevor Austin was great at second base. Matt Garcia emerged at shortstop. Luke Mann was unbelievably good. They're not going to be able to keep him. He'll be drafted. Hank Zeisler, he came in as a sixth-year first baseman. He absolutely mashed. They're going to lose him because I believe he's just straight up out of eligibility. Key guys, I think, for them, it really just came down to they kept getting hurt in the rotation. They lost Ian Losey for the year. They lost Carter Rustad after one appearance. They lost Chandler Murphy for a portion of the year. They lost so many pitchers, and that ultimately turned a team that I think would have been in a regional at least into a team that completely missed the postseason, almost completely missed the postseason, save for one SEC tournament game. In terms of key players to keep, I'm not sure. I think Ty Wilmsmeyer is a guy that could intrigue MLB teams simply because he's such a great defender. One of the fastest players I think I've ever seen. I believe there in the game earlier this year between Mizzou and Kansas, I remember them saying this on the SEC tournament game broadcast. They played it in Kauffman, so there was stat track available. Ty Wilmsmeyer had a bunt single in that game where he ran 31 feet per second. Like that is, I believe if he was in the league right now, that would be like the second or third fastest player in Major League Baseball. That's a play, and he did get a little bit better at the plate this year. That's a player I would probably identify as a key building block if you can keep him. That may not be something realistic though, because I think the MLB could come calling.
I am glad you touched on, the injuries that were kind of piling up for Mizzou, even guys from D1 baseball who was like, the premier outlet for college baseball. They mentioned, this team had talent, and you mentioned the talent. I think, of any program in the last decade that's probably taken the biggest hit from the move to the SEC, Peyton and I have said this before, is definitely the baseball program, really just how much they're behind now. And I mean, you look at where this team stood in the SEC, they finished last in the SEC East, 10-20 in the conference. I mean, there are a couple, series wins away from sneaking into a regional. I mean, this team had talent, and if they stayed healthy the full season, Steve Beazer probably still has his job, because this team, had the players, they had the depth to be a team that could make some noise in a regional. I don't think they would have really pushed themselves into a super regional, but there was talent there. And even, for how behind it was, the program, it wasn't Steve Beazer's fault in that sense. They made, pretty good strides this past year, and it's just really just building on that, just what DRF and the rest of this athletic department puts forward for the baseball program.
So I think, Kenny, you made a really good point, which is why I wanted to get that context, because it did seem like, they had something going, especially at least in non-con. Like they finished above 500. Like Peyton alluded to, they had a ton of injuries, especially in the pitching. That just makes it so difficult to compete, especially in postseason when you might need to rely on your rotation or whatever. But like it seemed like they've made some strides. So I think it's good that, like you said, or like you both said, maybe this quick hire is suggestive that, this last season with Beazer, despite him, being ousted after it, has put the university sort of on notice in terms of, hey, we need to throw some more investment in this program. I know there was the thing that was tweeted that they ranked last and how much money I think was just, dedicated toward the program. It was like 12 million, which is a lot of money, but not for, comparatively for SEC baseball.
It's very bad.
Right. So I guess I'm trying to phrase this in the form of a question, but I guess just like, do you all have any other comments on that? Just maybe like, we're not obviously university officials, but, what maybe needs to happen first and foremost? What are those next steps? What do those maybe look like? Now you have this new coach. He seems like an up and coming guy. He's a good player developer. If he hits, can be someone that can carry your program forward for a while. What now maybe with what has to come next in terms of investment into this program?
Well, I mean, it just has to be facility upgrades first and foremost. If that's not a full-on new stadium, it needs to be just seriously overhauling so many of the facilities. I mean, I believe the last major investment was the locker room. The Mizzou home locker room got renovated. It's a nice home locker room, but I mean, there's still so much. I mean, half the field is not turf. Half of it is turf.
We've talked about that, which is wild.
And that just basic things like that. Mizzou, I do not believe the baseball team has a full-time strength and conditioning coach. That needs to be something that changes. And they've got to find a way. I mean, we have not seen like just serious like donors from Mizzou's past be invested in this program. And that might have been a reason that contributed to Beezer's firing, because we know Max Scherzer, of course, was not pleased that Tony Vitello did not get the job back when Beezer was hired. And that has led to him donating no money to the program. Now, granted, it does seem the relations have thawed. I mean, he was at the Border War game this past year. He, I believe, came and talked to the baseball team our freshman year, I want to say. So it's not like it's an unsavable relationship, but that needs to be somewhere you really look to get some donations going for the program, just to get something of value, because as it is, this program is set up for failure.
Some of my last thoughts here, there are some good accounts on there that really cover more Mizzou baseball just independently. T.R. Robertson, who I really like him on Twitter. He gives you a lot of insights where this baseball team looks. Order on the Court, another guy who's really into the data side behind Mizzou. He posted this tweet a couple days ago, this past weekend. Last 5 years expenses on SEC baseball.
Yeah,
Number one team, of course, is Vanderbilt, $34.9 million over the last 5 years. You find Mizzou at the bottom at 12.1. Right above them is Georgia and Kentucky in the $14.8 million range. So, I mean, it's so obvious how far, behind Mizzou is. And even T.R. Robertson says, like, teams come here and they call Mizzou a poverty franchise, and they have every right to. I mean, they come to these facilities and they don't look like the rest of, the SEC. And we've talked about the field multiple times, and we have a guy who's scheduled to come on here later this week, and Peter Zimmerman, who was a big face of the Mizzou baseball program the last 4 years. I mean, he played 4 years ago. I mean, he was our freshman year in 2019, 2020. And I mean, he's going to be very vocal about this, and he's very opinionated on where this team could be if they had the proper funding that every other SEC program had.
Yeah, I think it's it's good that there's a player, or I guess now former player, but recent former player who, is speaking out about this, because that's whose voice I think might be the biggest in all of this, is the players coming out. Like, one thing I plan to ask Peter and almost want to know is, like, how does it feel as a player? Like, they're all on social media now, to see that, on Twitter, you're going out there and giving your best no matter who you play for. But, like, you're coming to an SEC program, you're expecting the best, and, you're not getting the, equal kind of balance of investment that some of these other teams are. It makes it harder for sure. So it's an interesting situation. I don't think there's anything that we're gonna, answer even in the next year. And I think fans seem to have a good understanding of that, where it's, they understand that this job is going to be hard for no matter who gets it. And I think people are willing to give Kerrick Jackson a chance, but also understand the same thing we're saying, which is, look, it doesn't matter if it's Kerrick Jackson or who it is, if this team doesn't, get some investment from the higher ups, as they say. Yeah.
My last thing on Kerrick's hire is that he's the first, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he's the first black head baseball coach in the SEC.
I do believe that
first current one. I read this the other day. And so, I mean, that's a big stride for, the African-American community in that sense. And I mean, Kerrick Jackson has found success as a baseball coach in multiple facets. So this is a big step for him as well.
Yeah, that's a good, I did not read that. So that's a good fact there. And yeah, I mean, hopefully, he gets the investment to have some success, and it doesn't continue to be a revolving door of coaches. We'll see. Plenty in store for the baseball program going forward. The one thing I do want to remark, though, is broadening this out quick. We were texting in our little group chat about this with Desiree Reed-Francois. This is now her fourth, right, head coaching hire that she's made. She's done volleyball, got a new coach there. Dennis Gates, obviously. Now here you have Kerrick Jackson.
Cross country was the fourth.
Cross country was the fourth. So
tennis as well.
Oh, tennis. That's right. So
wasn't there a new golf coach too, or was there not a new golf coach?
I don't recall that. To be honest with you.
I don't remember, but okay. So up to 5 now. My mistake. Head coaches, like, I just, your thoughts on maybe her tenure so far. And I think it's a good thing that she has been willing to, really look at all of these programs and evaluate them. Obviously we know for men's basketball, that's been a home run hire. Some of these other programs remains to be seen, but I guess thoughts just on her sort of work with the athletics department so far. I think, personally, I'll say first, she's doing a pretty good job, I think. I appreciate, too, like her presence at all these sporting events, that it's like, not an AD that is just never around and just sits in their office and is a mystery to everybody. She goes to all these games. She understands the, I think, importance of student investment in them as well, and seems to encourage that. So that's just one positive thing I'll note, but I'll turn it if y'all have any thoughts on that just in general.
I do agree 100%. The fan investment has been much, much better. I mean, I remember even junior year, when the team was just not good in basketball, they're just giving away things at every game to incentivize people. It probably helped more than it didn't. Like, ultimately, it was still an empty arena most of the time, but it probably got some people to go, and I don't think that's nothing. Football has been big. I remember freshman and sophomore years sometime. Well, sophomore year was COVID, so that doesn't count. But freshman year, rather, and junior year, even occasionally, the student section never seemed to be as full, with the exception of a few games. But senior year, it was packed pretty much every game that wasn't New Mexico State when it was 20 degrees and the day before Thanksgiving. I will also say I do think Dennis Gates has been her biggest hire easily, and that has been knocked out of the park so far. I love the way she's worked the schedule in football. There still obviously has been middling results for the most part in a lot of sports, but it would have been unfair to expect anything to have changed so quickly, I think. So I would give her a very positive review so far.
Most certainly, it did everything Peyton said, and I do like the part where you brought this up multiple times, Peyton. She's kind of making her rounds through each program and just trying to boost them in any way she can in the SEC. I mean, even like the non-revenue sports, like baseball, like softball, like women's basketball. These programs, they can excel in the SEC and they can still bring in money even if they aren't the top revenue sports like basketball and football. And she's really brought back basketball culture with Dennis Gates. I mean, there was some, different thoughts on Dennis Gates. Maybe some people didn't like the hire at the time. At the end of the day, he was the perfect hire. I mean, there are some people on Twitter maybe weren't as high on Kerrick Jackson just because he was at Memphis last year and doesn't have Power 5 head coaching experience. But I mean, she's landed some good hires in the past, so I think this one will be the same.
Yeah, well said.
I want to throw out, because we talked about this, it was asked earlier. This comes from Clinton Yates, ESPN, obviously. Kerrick Jackson is not only the first head coach in the SEC, he's the first ever black head coach in the SEC. First ever.
Wow.
And he's the only current Power 5 head coach in America that is black.
For baseball.
So, wow. Yes, for baseball.
Wow. Yeah. So definitely a big stride made there. That's great. That's good to Mizzou to be on the forefront of that. So I'm rooting for him. I think that would be awesome. And yeah, he needs the backing behind him. That's what it's all about.
They need to invest in the program. That's end of the day, that is what it'll come down to.
The calls seem to be loud, and if Desiree is continuing to listen to the fans, I think she will answer. All right, let's move on. It's time. My thing will play. There we go. New intro. What's that?
I think it's time for quick hits.
Quick hits time. Quick hits time. No. Quick hits. Of course, we have Jersey of the Week, Spelling Bee, Dirty Birds of the Weekend, the best thing we learned in the ratio. Everyone knows the score. Kenny, start us off.
Jersey of the Weekend. This one was a fun one. Got thrown in a group chat we're in with some guys back from Mizzou. Jason Heyward, Dodgers outfielder now. Peyton knows him well from his time in Chicago. Wearing a DTR jersey, former quarterback for UCLA. He went 2 for 3, not in the jersey, but in the game. I saw someone in our group chat. Someone said in our group chat he went 2 for 3 in the jersey. I don't believe he was wearing that underneath his Dodgers jersey.
I don't think you can do that.
But he went 2 for 3 with a run. So, he didn't have any extra bases.
Wasn't it 2 for 4?
Yeah, that was 2 for 3. I'll check right now.
Either way, good for him. My Jersey of the weekend is going to be, this happened today, Tre Richardson, TCU baseball. Tre Richardson hit 2 grand slams in the first 2 innings of TCU's regional against Arkansas.
Jeez.
TCU would go on to win 20-5. So, hey, I guess beating TCU in baseball rather is not for everybody. Mizzou did it earlier this year.
Aha. Aha.
2 for 4 with a run. You were right.
The Razorbacks cannot handle Tre Richardson's dingers. 20-5 in a regional. So is that how Arkansas season ends? Do they have a
no, that wasn't an elimination game.
Okay.
So they still have a chance, but
that would have been a brutal way for the season to end. But yeah, there you go. So Mizzou by default beat TCU 200-5. That's how that works.
I don't know where you're getting that math, but sure.
Law of what's that law where it's like the
transitive property?
The transitive property. That's what it is.
You don't typically do a lot of multiplication with that.
No, I do. It's my new rule. Anyway, my jersey of the week. I am doing Lionel Messi. PSG. He announced that he's leaving the French club. So the best player of all time is on the move. And yeah, we'll see where he goes next. I'll throw in bonus one because this also happened today. Zlatan, also known as Zava from Ted Lasso, who is portrayed as, but he's retiring. So a little bit of an international. Yeah, Kenny's holding up Man United jersey. He played for Man United for a little bit. He's retiring. So kind of a legend of the game. Also a legend of just being a comedian. You can look up like videos of him. He went on Kimmel. That's like I think the most famous one. But
he's the Carmelo of soccer. Like you know him by his first name. And you don't know any other basketball player by their first name. I just realized I said that. But I kind of picture him as the Carmelo. I mean, he didn't win much, but he was always really good.
Would Zlatan get his number retired at any club?
By the Knicks, yes.
Yeah, actually, just by the Knicks. And AC Milan, who Zlatan ended his career with, will retire Melo's jersey. They'll do a retirement jersey. Oh, that should make that a thing. Retirement jersey swap. Somehow, just between two sports franchises.
I know.
Shut up, Jack Knowlton.
Jack, I forgive me, but I forget his name. There's a white French soccer player who was really good in 2018, but he wasn't as good in the most recent World Cup.
I believe you're thinking of the Fortnite dance himself, Antoine Griezmann.
Antoine Griezmann is big friends with Julio Rodriguez. They did a jersey swap the other day. Maybe when those two retire, they'll do a jersey swap retirement.
Maybe I hope Antoine Griezmann told Julio Rodriguez to play like the MVP that I picked him to be, and not bad.
Mm-hmm.
What was the Jose Siri thing I saw on Twitter? That's one of your friends tweeted.
He bat flips racist pitchers, or pitchers he thinks are racist. But he bat flips everybody now, so I'm not totally sure if he's still following that. All right, getting into the spelling bee this week, I thought it would be the best just to go down some of the 2023 Mizzou baseball players. It's pretty an easy one this week. Peyton's probably going to do well in this, but we're going to let Jack go first.
I don't know, man.
You don't know if you're going to go. Okay, we're going to start with an easy one here.
What is it again?
So it's Mizzou baseball players for the spelling bee.
Okay.
All right. First up, Ty Wilmsmeyer.
Okay.
Layup.
Ty W.
Yep.
It's Wilmsmeyer, right?
Wilmsmeyer.
Yeah. Okay. WILMSMYER.
There you go.
There you go.
Layup.
All right. 1 for 1. Peyton. I feel like we've done this before because I'm looking through these names. Yeah, we might have. Rorik Maltrud.
Rorik Maltrud. RORIKMALTRUD.
There you go. Next one. I'm kind of going through this right now. I didn't actually pick 4. Hank Reisler. Jack.
Epic effort from Kenny.
Big Hank.
Big Hank. Oh, okay. Wait. I before E except after C. So Z.
Overthinking this.
You didn't spell Hank.
What? HANK. Did I not spell Hank?
No.
Okay. ZIE.
Nope.
ZEI.
Yes.
SLER.
Correct.
Aha.
Peyton, last one. Can you go 4 for 4 here? Javin Pimentel.
Oh God. I think he has it. Is his first name is spelled weird, right?
I mean, I don't think it's weird.
So it's spelled like normal Gavin.
It's not Gavin.
Here's a Mizzou-related
Javin.
question.
It's Javin.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, is it spelled like Gavin McKay, who's now at Mercer? Javin Pimentel. If I can get to Pimentel, I think I know that. Sorry, J. Javin.
Nope.
YN.
Jack.
JAV.
He got a redemption. I want a redemption.
Yeah, give him the redemption.
All right. Last name, Peyton. You got Javin correctly.
Pimentel. Pimental.
There you go. 4 for 4.
Yeah,
Call
he
us
started
Wendy's.
their SEC tournament game.
Not sponsored.
All right, best beats of the week.
Wait. I had a question. Who did we have on here that went to Mercer and played baseball again?
That was Ben
Upton.
That's right, Ben.
From 11.7, right?
Shut up, Ben. Welcome back anytime.
He was very
All
good.
right. Best beats of the week. I am currently up 2-0 in the standings, going for 3-0 here. Game 2 of the Stanley Cup final. I got over 5.5 goals.
Stolen.
Minus 125. I stole that one. There were 7 goals in the last game, so I'm gonna take Jack's bet here.
I am also gonna stick for my best beat of the week in the Stanley Cup world. Sorry, I was fumbling over my words there. I'm going Matthew Tkachuk, 5+ shots on goal at plus 156.
You shouldn't be allowed to make this bet if you can't say his name correctly.
It's Tkachuk.
It's not. It's Kachuk. You don't say the T.
Anyways, Matthew
He's from
Tkachuk
St. Louis.
plus 5. I don't care. It's the second best city in the state. If that. So I'm gonna go with him because Florida lost game 1. He's their star player. He's gonna be desperate. He's gonna get 5 shots on goal, I think.
That's a good bet. It's a good bet. It's Kachuk. And I was gonna say, I don't know, Peyton. Fulton's pretty cool.
Tkachuk. It has the
Mexico.
Yeah.
Has the Winston
Moberly
Churchill Museum. Moberly area CC.
Versailles.
Ugh.
Paris. I drove through Paris, Missouri. A fair bit.
Bowling Green.
My best beat of the week. I didn't want to make it a hockey trifecta. I am also still undefeated, 1-0 because Kenny, I did the 5.5 goals bet. I think that's just going to be a safe bet for as long as the Stanley Cup goes. You're probably all right because if there isn't just a lot of goals from both teams, the Vegas will probably score 6 goals by themselves.
Mm-hmm. They might want to push that line up after this next game.
It's gonna have that we're not getting this at 5.5 again if it goes over 5.5. Two games in a row. No way. Anyway, I'm doing baseball. I have over 9.5 runs between the Cardinals and the Rangers. The Rangers are a very good offensive team. Are they frauds or are they legit? Because they're having a really good year, right?
I mean, they're looking legit. We're past the small sample size.
Okay.
Yeah, we're past the small sample size point of the season, so that's a real team.
Okay. So yeah, I'm taking that over 9.5 runs. The Rangers are winning 13-7. I think was my official prediction.
15-7, I think.
15-7.
Either way, that's 22. So yeah,
yeah, that'd be over. That would be over for those doing math. Dirty Bird, Kenny.
Dirty Birds of the weekend. I got the Cardinals. I got swept by the Pirates this weekend. Worked the game on Friday. They scored 5 runs in the first couple innings. Then they gave up a 7 spot in the 7th inning. So no response there from the Cardinals as they get swept by a division rival.
I think the St. Louis Cardinals have already set the record for most Dirty Birds in one season because they have been in it a lot this year. And
be a good
you
thing
know
to keep
what?
track of.
It's totally deserved. They've been terrible. My Dirty Birds of the week, Ball State and UNCW baseball. This is just because when I wrote this down, they were the only 2 birds that had been eliminated from the College World Series. That has probably changed by now, but those 2 for sure out. Sorry about that, by the way, Kenny, because I know the Astros love them some Ball State baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they got 2 guys in the last couple of years. More recently, Chase McDermott, who is now a Baltimore Oriole because James Click doesn't know how to trade players. That's all I'm going to say.
Bonus Dirty Bird.
Yeah,
won a World Series.
Even though James Click was a very good GM.
Yeah,
I'm just salty.
It's tough.
All right.
My Dirty Bird of the week. I'm doing Kaleb Brown. I took this from Peyton. I was quick to jump on it. I'm doing this because Kaleb Brown visited UTSA. Of course, he is the brother of Kobe Brown, was a Mizzou guard. Did not crop his I saw what he was trying to do with the little half and half photo on
It looked
on
good
Twitter.
on Instagram. It did not look
exactly.
good on Twitter.
He did an Instagram photo on Twitter, which you got to keep those things apart. Very different media platforms when presenting photos. So for that reason, and in addition, that UTSA is the Roadrunners. Kaleb Brown is the Dirty Bird of the Week. Is that what you do?
They go meep meep
Meep meep.
meep meep.
That's like what's the
Llama.
No, well that's a llama, but what's the school?
Camels.
No, they go like za za. It's the California school.
Oh, the Anteaters.
Yeah.
yeah.
UC Irvine. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was thinking of. Anyway, best thing you learned.
Am I first?
Peyton,
No.
what'd you learn?
Oh, I am first. Okay, best thing I learned this week. Immaculate Grid. My goodness. If you all love those Wordle offbeats, for a bit it was Pirtle. Baseball had one. I forget what it was. Pickle. MLB Immaculate Grid has you covered. This is the best one of these offshoots for sure. I've been camping out until midnight to do these things. They're addicting. I had my best board ever yesterday. KCFN was one of my answers. Who nobody's gonna know who that is, but if KCFN is listening, we'd love to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, Peyton and I, we did these grids. That's how we got through our last semester of our senior year at Mizzou. Our whole capstone was just us playing that back and forth. I think our parents are probably going to listen to this tomorrow. I'm recording on a Sunday here, and
My stepmom said she listened on her road trip. So
they're going to know their money went to us playing baseball grids on Google Docs. Best thing I learned this week, Barry Zito, who is not mentioned in Moneyball, probably one of the best pitchers for the A's in the last 20 years. He pitched for the Savannah Bananas last night.
Wow.
Savannah Bananas, independent baseball team, kind of bringing a more fun aspect to baseball for younger fans. And he pitched last night. They tweeted this yesterday. Former 3-time Major League All-Star, World Series champ, and Cy Young Award winner Barry Zito took the mound for your Nanners tonight. They mentioned more about Barry Zito in that tweet than the director of Moneyball did in his film.
Yes, Barry Zito, of course, also a very good singer. Believe he won Masked Singer one year. I don't know. But I need you to stop with the Moneyball slander. It's my favorite movie ever made. It's so good.
Everyone has a favorite movie that just doesn't make sense and it's not good at heart. I mean, I love Dazed and Confused.
Movie.
I love Dazed and Confused, and
There's
Jack
a
one
difference
time
between it not being realistic and it being a good movie. It is.
Jack was
tell that story.
One time, Peter and Chase were Jack and I's roommates sophomore year. I walk into the apartment, they're watching the movie, and I go, "Oh, I love this movie," and they're like, "We can't figure out what this is," and I'm like, "There's no point to it. It's just some high schoolers hanging out after after their junior year. Nothing much else to it." And they thought it was like a dumb movie. I mean, that's where you are right now. I mean, if we walked in, you were watching Moneyball, we're like, "Oh, this movie's dumb," and then you'd be like, "No,
it
it's a good
isn't
movie."
dumb. Just because, look, creative liberties were taken. All right, they neglected to throw in the fact that they had a really good rotation.
MVP at
Mark
shortstop.
Mulder, yeah, they had Miguel Tejada at short, who won MVP. They had Mark Mulder, Hudson, and Zito in the rotation. Forget that, because when they were like, "We want you to be a team leader, Dave Justice, and just take your walks," I was like, "That's so smart." They're finding value in players. It's really good, dude.
But did Moneyball work? I mean, did it work? I don't remember.
They made the playoffs on a budget of no. See,
now they're moving to Vegas.
Didn't the Twins thump them? The Twins, the 2002 Twins.
They won 3-1.
Look,
there is a baseball is, and I will always say this: baseball is the one sport where it is actually an accomplishment to make it to the postseason. Just to make it, it's hard, and they did it on the most shoestring budget ever, in a totally cutting edge, outsmart everybody way. And you're just upset. Yes, they totally rip apart scouting in the movie, despite the fact that even the book mentions that scouting was a big part of it. I don't care, Kenny. It is a fantastic movie.
Yeah, Billy Bean in the movie goes up to someone who hasn't played baseball since T-ball. He's playing Call of Duty in the game and makes him the director of scouting.
It's like he
This
goes,
is cinema.
You played baseball, right? And he's like, I played T-ball when I was a kid. New head of scouting, and then he walks away. Look, yes, there's some dumb parts of that movie. But Kenny, after this, look up the trade deadline scene on YouTube and tell me that is just not like peak movie. Like that is such a good scene.
Right before they DFA one of our best friends' dads. A week
You
before
know what?
he could have had a pension for his
Mike
10 years of service time.
You know what? You can send this to him. He can put me on the list. Mike Magnanti dying for that scene in the movie was well worth it.
For a team that didn't win the World Series in the end.
He's playing hardball with these GMs, playing them against each other. Hey, you want Venafro? I want Rincon. That's such a good movie. Oh my God.
Where are the A's 20 years later? What are they doing now?
Going to Vegas.
Aren't they putting the worst product they possibly can on the field so no one shows up and forces an opportunity to move to a better city?
Oh, how on earth is that relevant?
I'm telling you, it just didn't work. I mean, in the end, Moneyball just didn't
work. They made the playoffs.
I will admit, it was a lot harder to make the playoffs then. There were 4 teams making the playoffs. You had 1 wild card and the 3 winners of the division. I mean, there were teams that had better records not making the playoffs. I do agree with that. I just think it's funny to say it didn't matter in the end.
It did. It was really everything you see in baseball now, in part, happened because of what happened in that movie.
And you get a clip of Kevin Youkilis in high school. So
and they're like, and they're
thing.
like, we want to trade for Kevin Youkilis, but Boston actually thinks he's going to be good. So I do remember that. That's a good scene.
What'd you learn, Jack?
That's right before. Just last thing. That's right before he assigns T-ball guy as new head scout.
T-ball guy. Do you think the A's should retire Melo's number before they move to Vegas?
No,
just leave it in the stadium.
Stadium's
they should
get blown up.
retire Heat Brand's number.
I need to get out to Oakland. That's my last thing. I need to get out there. I'm a big A's
Kenny
fan
wants
at
to
heart.
go. Kenny wants to go.
I want to see it. I want to just like spend a night there.
I want to hang out with the raccoon that lives in the press box.
I don't think he lives there anymore. I think it was a possum. I don't think it was a raccoon.
Yeah, whatever. Rodent, potato, tomato.
Rodent.
I also want to comment on the Immaculate Grid from Peyton before my best thing I learned. I have also been attempting to do it, and my goal is before the end of the year to get 9 for 9 once. I don't think it will ever happen because I couldn't name you players that have played for the Giants and the Detroit Tigers. I don't know. I hope there isn't.
Or no, not Melky. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I was hoping there wasn't someone really obvious there, but that's my new goal for the year. And they need to make it for football. Immaculate Grid. You liked my tweet when I tweeted it. Please make one for football and the NBA.
The football one would be awesome. That would be a great one.
Yeah.
Football would be good.
Best thing I learned this week, Drew Lock, former Mizzou quarterback, is apparently, and I guess Mizzou fans will probably know this, maybe better than I did. I recently learned this. He was apparently elite in high school at basketball. The reason I dove into this was because the Seahawks, Drew Lock's team now, released a video of just like players saying who their starting 5 would be. And like every player had Drew Lock. Oh, Drew Lock is the 2. He's a shooter, like all this. And I was like, why is he so good at basketball? And I looked it up. He was like, apparently he didn't decide until his junior year that he was going to really commit to football. He was a really good basketball player, got offered by Oklahoma. There's an article on The Athletic about how he has learned to shake off adversity on the football field because he would do that playing basketball. So elite 3-point shooter. And I really wish I would have seen Drew Lock Mizzou basketball. I wish they would have Sam Horned him and let him play for both.
That is a fun thing because you could make like an all what if starting 5.
Yeah.
Drew Lock could be one on there. Another guy that really comes to mind is Dallas Keuchel, who was a Cy Young pitcher for the Astros, more recently pitched for the White Sox too. He was a hooper in high school. He was bald then too. Yeah, he had a shaved head.
Wow.
Like he does now.
Really? I did not know any of this.
Yeah. I can send you guys the picture later, but there's a picture out there of Dallas Keuchel backing someone up in the
Just
paint.
tweet that with no context.
No
context. Before we
context?
release the show, just tweet it.
Okay. I'll do that tomorrow morning.
Do that and maybe one from Drew Lock in high school when he's got a shaggy head of hair. But yeah, there's cool quotes in the Athletic article from Frank Haith, who coached Mizzou before Konzo.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, that was not a good. That didn't end
Icky.
well. Yeah, that wasn't good.
That was ugly at the end.
Yeah. But
Or
yeah,
no, it was him to Kim Anderson. Then it was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was Kim before. Yeah. But anyway, apparently Drew Lock's really good at basketball. So, shout out Hooper Drew Lock. Maybe he should switch if he can't start it at quarterback.
Imagining a Mizzou without Drew Lock in its lore.
Yeah. Ratio of the week.
All right, ratio of the week. I saved this one for Sunday. This was from May 30th. So the Padres and Bally Sports are no longer in a partnership. The regional sports networks have been taking a hit. Who would even take a job with the regional sports network right now? Not me. The San Diego Padres tweeted this. This one fan asked, "What if you already have MLB TV? Do I have to buy another subscription again?" Because the Padres are now exclusively through MLB TV. And the Padres replied, MLB TV, all team subscribers will not have access and will need to purchase the single team Padres package in addition to the all teams package in order to stream Padres games. So just more money to watch the Padres. 158 comments, 455 quote tweets to 103 likes, 1 million views though. I mean, in the end of the day, you want the views. You want people looking. And that could bring some people to the Padres. Padres have fun on social media. I mean, it's a good franchise right now. Got a lot of good players, but they took the ratio here. I was actually working the day. It was that Friday when it was announced that they were no longer going to be on Bally Sports, and they only had like one camera in the entire game because no one was really working this game. And I was on the website, and someone pulled every single article that was through Bally Sports about the Padres off the website all at once. So I just lost where my spot I was working at when I was writing, and just hundreds, thousands of articles about the Padres ripped off the website at once. It said unpublished. So I mean that's where it kind of stands right now with some of these regional sports networks.
So such a crazy. It just goes to show MLB more than any other sport has just the most backwards and bad system.
I was about to say, hey, baseball, you want people to watch? Maybe let people watch.
Yeah. And I'm not smart enough to come up with the real solution for this, but it needs change.
Tough.
I know all MLS games are streamed through Apple TV Plus. There's no blackouts though, and I think that's something that baseball just has to figure out if they really want to grow this game.
Mm-hmm. Agree to agree. Okay. Good job. Good quick hits. We'll wrap up the show with some NBA final stuff. Like I said, the game has been going on while we've been recording. It is 71-66 Denver in the third quarter right now. Michael Porter Jr. Let me give a stat update, live stat update, even though the show isn't live anymore. He has 5 points, 6 rebounds. He is 2 for 7 from the field and 1 for 5 from 3. So it's a Michael the ball stops here Porter game for him. But
he had a good game one, didn't he?
He did play well in game one. I don't remember what he finished with. He had a couple blocks. Kenny was saying before we started, he's just a rebound machine too.
He just cleans the boards. Yeah. 14 boards in game one.
The glass.
There was a good story written about him in the Denver Post too. For anyone that wants to read it, it was like him finding peace and where his career has gone from the ups and downs of injuries, and him finding peace was bringing hope to other kids that want to be professional basketball players or really just continue as athletes. So good article on that in the Denver Post.
Was there? Did he talk about Mizzou in it at all? I bet.
I didn't read it because I think you have to have a subscription. But I mean, I read the synopsis of it from on the tweets that the writer wrote, and so I thought it sounded pretty good and saw some quotes. And I mean, it sounds like he's really at peace of where his career is going.
It's not like he's resentful tours Mizzou either.
I mean,
he's been back
he was hurt.
Games. Yeah. Jonte, I know on Twitter is like a Mizzou cheerleader. So
they made a bobblehead for him in a jersey he never wore.
They did. They did indeed make a bobblehead.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Junior.
Michael.
Junior year. The only memorable things about junior year. Can y'all hear that?
Yes, have you guys ever seen MPJ and Christian Brown on the floor at the same time?
No,
I don't think I've ever seen that. I was hoping to see it. I want to see like Christian Braun just dribble up the court and do the Villanova play where they throw it back to him and then MPJ just bangs a three. But I don't think we're ever going to I've never seen him on the floor at the same time.
I think it would probably be the inverse. I think it would probably be Michael Porter.
Well, I've been watching Christian Brown tonight.
Michael Porter Jr. wouldn't pass that shot up.
That is true.
He'd be shooting.
Porter does like to shoot threes, but
Christian's about to come in, but MPJ is not on the floor. So Don't think we're going to see it. Denver currently up 73-70.
Yeah. Oh, I was hoping you were going to say a different score and expose that your TV is behind. So Kenny just says, it's 56-52. It's like, no, it's not, Kenny. You're a quarter and a half behind. Just insane stream lag or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Game one was, I think game one made me wish I said that the Nuggets were going to win in 4 and really commit to it. But game 2, the Heat are keeping it close.
I mean, I don't think the Heat, the Nuggets are the better team. Like, unequivocally, easily, it's evident.
Yeah.
But Jimmy Butler will get one game. He's not going to go down quietly. And it's no shame in going down pretty quickly if you're the Heat. I mean, the fact that they're here is pretty remarkable. But Denver is so good.
Okay, we're back because as soon as we decided to just riff and talk about nothing, Dennis Gates has dropped news on us. We talked about him earlier with it being a home run hire with Desiree Reed-Francois, and he is once again proving why, because he is relentless in his pursuit of players to help improve on what was a phenomenal season for Mizzou men's basketball last year. He has landed another player in the transfer portal, and it's a big one, literally, because breaking news, Connor Vanover has committed to Mizzou. We were literally getting off of our call after we were done with the show when Peyton just goes, oh, Dennis Gates just tweeted his bat signal, which if you don't know is him just like cheering with a cool Mizzou background. And so we were like,
so electric. The emotions it incites in me are unmatched.
So he tweeted that and we had jumped right back on. And Connor Vanover has confirmed he is joining Mizzou next season. The calls for a center have been answered. That has been the, loudest call, I guess, for players coming in this offseason. We know Kaleb Brown's leaving. We know this team struggled for size last year. So I'll turn it over. Quick reactions, gentlemen. He was visiting Missouri this past weekend, I think, or just earlier this week.
It was like Thursday, Friday.
Yeah. So at the end of this past week, he was in Columbia, and now Dennis Gates has landed a commitment from the 7'3" big man. Peyton, he was your jersey of the week for Oral Roberts. Of course, played for Arkansas, the Must Bus as well. What are your thoughts? Big man, finally at Mizzou, breaking news.
And people were worried Dennis wasn't going to add a big man. It's like people thought Dennis didn't see the tallest player on the team right now that's actually going to play big minutes was Aiden Shaw. Like, this was always going to happen. He made it very clear. I remember when you were still covering the team, Jack, and went to a press conference. He said, if you're going to be a 5 that plays for me, you got to shoot 3. And that's what they're getting in Vanover. Vanover is surprisingly a pretty effective shooter from beyond the arc. Despite being 7'5", he was the tallest player left in the portal. And he fits every need they really needed. They needed someone that can grab boards. Vanover has a very good rebound rate. But when they're going to need him to stretch the floor, hit a 3, he's capable of doing that. Ultimately, I think it's not the first person I think people would have wanted. Not even I would have wanted. It would have been nice for them to have landed Shedrick. This is not the worst consolation prize in the world at all. I think that I don't think he's going to play a crazy amount of minutes or anything, but I would definitely think he would start on occasion. Wouldn't expect him to come here without kind of at least some assurance of that. But ultimately, he fit every single need Mizzou had remaining. Does he make Mizzou a bona fide Elite 8 Final Four team? No. But he does, I think, put a piece in the puzzle that will make them still a top half of the SEC team.
Most certainly, averaging 7.2 rebounds last year, 12.7 points. This is Connor Vanover's 4th stop in college basketball.
Yeah.
He did enter his name into the NBA draft. He had an agent, kept that eligibility to be a grad transfer, as this could be his last year in college basketball. Wasn't too long ago that he was facing the Missouri Tigers. He started in that game when the Arkansas Razorbacks were ranked 10th in the nation in 2021, taking on Mizzou at home. Kind of a very frustrating game going into overtime there with Arkansas stealing that win. They had 13 points in overtime. Mizzou only had 8. Connor Vanover didn't see much time in that game, only 12 minutes. He had 12 points and 4 rebounds. But this does answer that question at the big man spot. I mean, this is going to probably be the first, I guess, average, or not average, but more reoccurring minutes for a big man in Dennis Gates' era. I mean, he really didn't have that tool last year. I know Mohamed Diarra got a little bit better down the stretch, got more minutes, but Connor Vanover likely in that starting 5 to start the year.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton, you brought it up like you kind of knew, I think most Mizzou fans did, that he was going to find his big eventually. And yeah, this is a good one. I totally forgot about the Cal. He started at Cal and then went to Arkansas after that. So yeah, he's one of those players that, you know, Mizzou relied on those guys last year that have a lot of experience, that have played for a whole lot of schools, and then finally kind of settled in Dennis Gates' system. So I think, you know, if he embraces it, he can be really, really effective. He's a stretch big. He had some really good stints for Oral Roberts, playing in a good Oral Roberts team. They had a good creator in Max A. Smith, who he could kind of run the pick and roll with there. You expect, you know, with someone like Nick Honor, Sean East, you know, if Isaiah Mosley comes back, we don't know what that situation is. Could be 3 guards that could work really well in that system with him. He brings something different than Mohamed Diarra, who is obviously a little bit more of a rock defensively, but didn't really have as much offensive tools. I think at least not as much as a lot of people thought. But Vanover does. He's crafty. He can score in bunches when he's given the opportunity. Like Peyton said, I don't think it's like a elevation of skill that takes Mizzou, you know, fully to the next level, but it certainly is a great roster piece, I think, to complement what has been a pretty outstanding transfer portal by all accounts for Gates. Obviously, with the exception of not getting your first choice big man. You know, Peyton said it last week or last show when we were talking about replacing Kobe Brown. How you do that is by committee, and you don't do that by just getting a like for like player. You bring in guys that you know are going to buy into your system and keep that sort of momentum that they got last season going, and that's what they've done. And I think this is probably the coup de grace. I don't even know roster construction wise if he's able to go after another like any other guys, but you know, if not, I think if you're ending with Vanover, you got your big that's going to satisfy most fans at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Peyton's
and
jersey of the week came to fruition.
Yeah,
I mean, you were big on him last on the week. Yeah, that might be the first time that's happened.
The first speculative jersey that's then actually happened.
Yeah, I couldn't make it a full-on Mizzou jersey of the week, but I did have a good feeling. I mean, at this stage, if you're getting visitors, there's very few times where you're going to get a visitor and not have a commitment this late in the game. There are some exceptions, but this didn't feel like one of them. At the end of the day, I mean, people are going to look back at Vanover and remember what Jeremiah Tillman did to him a few years ago and have a bad taste in their mouth. And that's understandable, but you have to look at it like this. Do you think Vanover is going to have a bigger impact this year than Mohamed Diarra had for Mizzou last year? And I think the answer is yes, because I think they are basically fulfilling the same kind of mold for this roster. And he's a good fit. I mean, he's not going to be one of the top options on the floor. But when he is going to be given the ball, he shoots 35% from beyond the arc. That is more than serviceable for a big man. Great defense, or not defensive block numbers or anything like that, but good rebounder. Everything at this stage is going to be a gamble. And I think this is a calculated risk. They're banking on him being able to fit in their system pretty well. And I think it's very worthwhile for them to try that.
Yeah, like Peyton, I want to bring up the thing you said with Vanover coming in this late. And like you said, like Missouri on Instagram was posting the newcomers moving into their housing like yesterday. So
summer workouts are tomorrow.
Yeah. So, you know, it's really at the buzzer. Like you said, you get a visitor. This is probably a little bit of a gamble. I'm sure Gates has not scouted Vanover nearly as much as he has evaluated guys like Tamar Bates and John Tonje, who he got weeks and months ago. And obviously he's probably paying attention, but I think he was feeling the heat a little bit of, I got to go after a big, but I think he got a pretty darn good one in terms of, the modern pick and roll big. He can size up just from being really tall. He'll get you some rebounds, and he can shoot. He can stretch the floor. He's not, going to get in anybody's way just being kind of clunky in the post, which is somebody, like Jamarian Sharp on offense, you could have argued, who, Mizzou is linked to not once but twice and got, curved not once but twice. I think it's a good fit. And, if Aiden Shaw kind of blows up into the really explosive 4 that he has the potential to be in year 2, that's great. But, I think you get someone safe, you get someone experienced. They leaned on that last year with guys like Demoy Hodge and Sean East and Nick Honor, DeAndre Golston. So I think there's no reason not to bank on experience given the results we saw last season. So yeah, fun times. Dennis Gates, he's proving like, that they like, I'm trying to make an analogy, but they always say like football sometimes is king in sports where like other stuff will go on, and then a football event will happen to just, take the attention away. Dennis Gates is king at Mizzou. We try and talk about baseball hirings. Nope. Dennis Gates recruit. Bat signal. Bat signal. We try and talk about football scheduling. No. Dennis Gates announces that Aiden Shaw now has a 50-inch vertical. I don't know.
Oh my Dennis Gates is entering, announces that Aiden Shaw is entering the Mr. Universe competition pageant after bulking up and gaining 50 pounds in muscle mass.
Eli Drinkwitz says Sam Horn is the starter. Nope. Dennis Gates says Jackson Francois will be the starting 2 next season after significant offseason development. All right. Well, there you go. First breaking news segment of the podcast era. So glad it dropped before we had all gone our separate ways. So we'll plug this into the rest of the show. But yeah, big news for Mizzou men's basketball. Connor Vanover is a Tiger. They've found their center. So, we'll see what the people on Power Mizzou gripe about next for men's basketball. But no longer a center.
Connor
or maybe
Vanover, he went 0 for 11 against Jeremiah Tillman.
You should do that in your voice. When you want to poke fun at a fan, pick one of the voices, either the high or the low one on your board. Let's hear.
Connor Vanover. Did you see the one TikTok he made?
That was great. Yeah, it was great. Very fun timeline show we've got Frankenstein together now with breaking news. But yes, Connor Vanover, Missouri Tiger, very, very exciting stuff. All right, well, on the show. Hope everyone enjoyed. We'll be back Friday. Should have an interview with Pete Zimmerman set up. Hope he and the team are feeling better from the stomach virus. And yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back Friday. Everyone enjoy your week. And thank you for all the downloads so far. It's been cool to see first 2 episodes on the pod format. So
especially in Singapore. Shout out y'all.
Yeah. Y'all some real ones for real. All right. Well, on the show, hope everyone enjoyed, and we will be back on Friday.